we're also told in the Bible that there are ones that are stronger than others, and that will require some fasting to get those ones out. And that might mean that there might be like the multiple ones that are in there, like with Legion, which is probably why you have the Legion example, that it didn't matter how many, he didn't have to do anything other than say, and they were afraid of what he was going to do. So no, I mean, I think you have to be very careful. I think you have to just be in the spirit, and you can make it happen. I've never had an occasion to do that, but I have had spiritual attacks, and it's really as simple as that to make them go away. And the other thing I would put on it is, as much as the people of Israel and Judah were taught about all of this, they were still being possessed and couldn't deal with it. So whatever they were doing wasn't working, and they were probably resorting to rituals as opposed to just being in the spirit and doing it. Biblically, we're told that the life is in the blood, right? When the giants lost their immortality, and the giants did lose their immortality that they were originally created with, which is the counterfeit immortal spirit passed on to them by the fallen angels. But in Genesis 6:3, and this is not Noah's commission, because the math doesn't add up of 120 years, because from the time when the first son is born to when they enter the ark, it's 100 years. 500, 600, we're given the numbers. It's not 120. The Bible doesn't make math mistakes.
Yes.
And as you take that back to Hebrew, it's talking about the life spirit of a being, as opposed to this commission. And again, understanding that there's a spirit, and then there's the oiketerion, the soul, and the body. And where I get that oiketerion word from comes from the word habitation in Jude 1:6, and house of heaven in 2 Corinthians 5:2. It's only used twice in the Bible, and habitation is the place where the angels left in heaven. Right, so there's an oiketerion in heaven, which means a dwelling place for the spirit. So in the physical world, they can be here as a spirit, but if they want to be here as a physical body to interact, to reproduce, they're going to need a soul and a body for the spirit to merge into the soul. And only Jesus and God can divide the soul and the spirit. And so once they created their physical body, and we know they can do this, because in the Sodom narrative, and in the verse before, starting I think in chapter 18 of Genesis, is you have 3 that show up to visit Abraham, and Abraham doesn't recognize them as being angels or the angel of the Lord, which is the pre-incarnate. I don't like that word, so pre-Jesus. Incarnation is kind of a polytheist word. So I like to try and avoid that. These are the ones that are physically interacting in the world. They're touching, they're talking, they're eating, they're drinking. And then 2 of those angels go on to Sodom, whom the people want to have sex with. Now, they know that they can take a form of any choice that they want. So whether or not it was homosexual or whether it was heterosexual, or they were going to provide a daughter, we don't know. But we do know is they're aware that they could reproduce to create Rephaim. Well, and in the document, and again, as I cover off in the second book, but if you ask for the second incursion document for me, I'll connect it as Sodom as being the likely birthplace of the second incursion. Ooh. And even in Gnosticism, they look at Gomorrah as being the city before the flood where these giants were created, and then Sodom was the place afterwards. But I do this all sort of biblically and show you how it's connected. And these are the 5 kings in the war of giants of Sodom and Gomorrah that are fighting the Mesopotamians. They're the ones who actually caused the war because they refused to pay the tribute. So it's all, these things really start to make some sense once you dig into it. So so this oiketerion is that dwelling place of the spirit. So when we look at Genesis 6:3, all life is being restricted to 120 years, whether it's the demigods or it's the humans or it's the hybrids that are going to be created afterwards. So as you see that unfold, life begins after the flood, and Noah lives for 350 years after the flood as well. But the lifespan of people being reproduced thereafter is shortening. And as the Rephaim intermarry with humans because of their fertility issue and because of this restriction, their life is being shortened. And by the time of Abraham, you're literally at 120 years. What the Nephilim and the Rephaim and the polytheists did is they wanted to be able to recreate that immortality that was lost. And so in their belief system, and as it says in the Bible, the life is in the blood. So they believe that if you drink human blood, you can extend your life and you can have a higher level of brain activity, higher levels of intelligence. So it enhances all of that. And that the sacrifice of a human body, particularly the innocent ones, and then absorbing that life force is even stronger. And so it's thought that the gods wanted all of that as well, because they wanted that life force to consume themselves, to make them more powerful within the physical world as well. And it became an active thing in the polytheist rituals of blood sacrifice and blood drinking, and continued to even this day within the secret societies at the adept level. And so we get another analogy of this as it comes through the vampire mythos, and particularly with Dracula. Dracula, son of a dragon. A means the sun. Seraphim were dragon angels from heaven, six-winged, serpent-faced angels. And their offspring looked just like them, as we just talked about in terms of taking the physical body. So seraphim, as the watchers, were the most predominant producers of giants, and they had that serpentine look. So that's why you have all of these gods in the pantheons dominated by seraphim or nagas or feathered serpents or whatever you want to call them. And the kings were depicted as serpents as well, because initially they looked just like them. And even over 1,000 years after the flood, with the intermarriage that had to be going on and the dilution that was going on thereof, of intermarrying with humans, you can look at Akhenaten, go visit one of the tours or Google the picture. Look at that face. That has a protruding chin, a high cheekbone, large wraparound eyes that were said to have glowed with the Rephaim and the Nephilim that could light up a room, and these long serpentine elongated skulls. They looked like serpents for many, many years afterwards. And so this drinking of the blood was wrapped in with a serpentine dragon description, complete with the cobra fangs on the pharaoh's dynasty and the cobra headdress that they used to wear, all intermixed into the dragon Dracula mythos with Bram Stoker. And so they're the enemies of God. These are the undead. These are the ones that will live forever, but they have to drink blood now to do so.